your skills. Look, boy, you in the danger room. Yeah, you in the danger room. Come on now. It's like a dream. Everything moving fast, but you moving slow. Change the tempo, watch, we on time. Hey, now you know. Listen to the rhythm we giving them, we bringing it with passion. Smashing, you should just move to my groove.
Today's build video, I'm gonna share with you my SMG PvP meta build, which I mostly run on Dark Zone and sometimes in Conflict. So this build uses Firewall specialization because it gives you the Striker Shield, which helps boost your damage. So this build focuses more on getting close to your enemies so that you can proc the Adrenaline Rush together with the Intimidate Talent. So for this build, I'm also using Firewall specializations, and sometimes I require the Armor Kit ability, wherein it helps me regenerate and even allow me to tank enemies whenever I'm healing. So I'm using the Vector SP45 ACP for my main or primary weapon. So I use this weapon because of its high RPM, and combined with my amplified damage coming from my Intimidate, it allows me to shred armor easily. So it has Russian Red Dot Sight for that 5% crit hit damage, Laser Pointer for that 5% crit hit chance, Flash Hider 45 for that 5% crit hit damage, and an Oversight 45 ACP mag for that plus 20 rounds. So having this Vector has low magazine size or low ammo capacity, so you also need that plus 20 rounds so that you will reach 45 on your magazine. So it has SMG damage, crit chance, and the attribute which is important, damage to target out of cover, since it deals more damage or gives you a damage boost whenever your opponent is face tanking you or you're pushing them. So for the talent, I'm using In Sync, since whenever I proc my shield or I open my shield, it gives me a damage boost for my skill, and then when I shoot, it gives me weapon damage, and when those two bonuses are proc, I get double the damage. So I get 15% weapon damage for dealing damage with my skill or using my skill, and then hitting an enemy grants me plus 15% skill damage, and whenever I proc those two, I get 30% weapon damage and 30% skill damage. Okay, so for my secondary, I'm using the Lady Death, which is the best in slot for SMG, or the best SMG whenever you're doing PvP. So I switch to Lady Death whenever I feel like In Sync or my Vector is not dealing that much damage. Whenever I want to have more amplified damage, I switch to this weapon. So I use this whenever I'm having problems clearing out many opponents or enemies. Okay, so the good thing about Lady Death is that it has high RPM, but the problem is it has low ammo capacity. So Lady Death has SMG damage, crit chance, and damage to armor attribute, and the talent is breathe free, which allows you to amplify your damage by 50% in PvP, and it stacks for up to 32 stacks. So whenever you're moving, you gain 4, and then 8 stacks if you're sprinting or running. Okay, so whenever you kill an enemy, an opponent, both an NPC or player, you get plus 20% movement speed for 10 seconds. So for my pistol, I'm just using the first AP of 45. So it has pistol damage, damage to target out of cover, and strain talent, which gives me plus 10% crit hit damage for every 0.5 seconds I'm firing this weapon. Stacks up to 5 times, giving me a total of 50% extra crit hit damage whenever I'm equipped with this pistol. So it has extended pistol mag for that plus 11 rounds, and compact coupled small laser for that 10% crit hit chance. So let's go with the gears. So for the gear set, I mostly focus on building up crit chance together with amplified damage, survivability coming from bonus armor, and also having the best in slot bonus from damage to target out of cover and damage to armor, together with high crit damage in this build. So it has 200% crit damage on both SMGs. Okay, so this is mainly focused on having SMG damage together with amplified damage, and also bonuses from damage to target out of cover, damage to armor, and allowing it to have higher damage output after building up all those weapon damage bonuses, or building up your base weapon damage and then combining it with the additional critical hit damage of 200%, which doubles your output. So for the mask, I'm using the Sokolov mask. So I changed the core attribute into armor, and has crit chance, crit damage, and a mod for crit hit damage. So it's important to get crit chance and crit damage, since it also builds up your bonus damage, or it boosts your damage. So for this Sokolov mask, I get 10% extra SMG damage. So I try to use 2 so that I get the total of those 2 bonuses, and also the crit hit damage of 15%. For the backpack, I'm using the Grupo Sombra backpack to get that plus 15% crit hit damage bonus from the gear set. And it has weapon damage, crit hit damage, crit hit chance, and crit hit damage mod. It has adrenaline rush talent, wherein it allows me to gain 20% bonus armor for 5 seconds, and it stacks up to 3 times 10%. It only requires you to get close by 10 meters to an enemy. Okay, so for the PvP stats, from 20%, it only has 10% bonus armor. So it still has, or gives you lots of survivability, since whenever someone is near you, you get 10% bonus armor, and it stacks up to 3 times, so you get 30% if you have 3 enemies near you. So for the chest piece, I'm using the Sokolov chest piece to get the other bonus of 15% crit hit damage, as weapon damage, crit hit chance, crit hit damage, and a mod for crit hit damage. So the talent is Intimidate. So whenever I have bonus armor and I'm within 10 meters of my enemies, I get an amplified damage of 35%. So it boosts my weapon damage, or my base weapon damage, and combined with my crit hit damage, I get more damage, or I can deal more damage to easily shred armor of my enemies and easily kill them or eliminate them. So for the gloves, I'm using the contractor's gloves. So the bonus from the gear set of 10% LMG damage is not important. What's important is the ability, or the talent, wherein it gives you that 8% damage to armor. So it's especially found on contractor's gloves, so it's important to have this build so that it boosts your lady death and also your existing damage to target out of cover, combined with damage to armor to further boost your weapon damage. It has crit damage, and the core attribute is changed to armor. So it's also important to get at least 4 armor core attributes in this build, since SMG build requires you to get close. So you need to have at least high base armor, so that whenever you get close, you are not easily eliminated or killed by your opponents. For the holster, I'm just using the improvised holster, since it has an extra mod slot. So it has armor, crit hit damage, crit hit chance, and another mod for crit hit damage. So the reason I'm equipping this is that it's like having 2 Grupo Sombras, but for this one it has only 12% crit hit damage. So this allows me to build up my 200% crit damage. And for the last piece, the Fox's Sprayer, so this one gives you 10% rifle damage, but it's not important. What's important is the 8% damage to target out of cover from the attribute, combined with the crit hit damage and an armor per attribute. So for the skills, I'm just using the Striker Shield, which allows me to buff my damage by 12% for every enemy that's in front of my shield. And I'm using the jammer pulse so that whenever I'm pushing, I can just apply disrupt status on my enemies, or I can easily eliminate my enemy shield whenever they're using in sync, so they have to proc it by using their shield. When I use jammer, I can cancel out those shields and easily kill them, so I don't need to deal with their shield, or I do not need to deal damage to their shield just to remove their shield or their protection. I can just directly damage them. Okay, so let's go with the stats. For the Vector SPR 45 ACP, I have 72k weapon damage, 24k PvP weapon damage, 60% crit chance, 205% crit hit damage, combined with my amplified damage, which allows me to easily shred armor. So for my Lady Death, I have 74k weapon damage, 24k PvP weapon damage, 60% crit chance, 200% crit hit damage, 70% headshot damage, 14% armor damage, because I have Contractor's Gloves, and the 6% coming from the Lady Death's attribute. For the pistol, I have 128k weapon damage, 42k PvP weapon damage, 44% crit chance, 195% crit hit damage, 120% headshot damage, 8% armor damage. So by the way, all of those weapon damages also have 18% damage to target out of cover, coming from the Vector's 10% damage to target out of cover, and the knee pads Fox Sprayer giving me 8% damage to target out of cover. But for the Lady Death, it only gives me 8% damage to target out of cover, combined with the 14% damage to armor. Okay, so for the specialization, the flamethrower from the Firewall specialization, I have 430k weapon damage, 143k PvP weapon damage, 34% crit chance, 195% crit hit damage, 85% headshot damage, and 8% armor damage. So the other stats are not important. What's important is that whenever I use this in conflict, it can easily kill your enemies because it has high weapon damage both in PvE and PvP. So this is my SMG PvP meta build. Hope this build helps you guys in playing the Division 2.